evening to the January 19th meeting of the Plympton Finance Committee. It is 6:05. We'll call the meeting to order. And let me read the usual disclaimer. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Art Act of 2021, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so in the following manner, which you all knew about already because you're here. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite our best efforts, we will post on the town's website, www.town.plympton.ma.us, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website. And this meeting is being recorded. Who is 781-724-6789? Could you please identify yourself?
That would be me. I'm over in the dark corner here, Nate.
You're showing up twice though, Art.
I know. I got
Okay.
my iPad on video and I got no audio, so I had to dial in on my iPhone to get audio.
Gotcha. All right.
And I got my PC running too.
So Art's joining us with his split personality. Excellent. All right. Thank you all very much. I don't believe we have any minutes from the previous meeting because Mike is unable to join us this evening and he did not circulate the minutes. So we'll go over the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. And I'm going to skip over the next item on the agenda and we'll get to that at the end out of interest of being respectful of the folks' time who have joined us from the clerk's office, library, assessors, and Board of Health. So actually it doesn't look like we have any assessors on here. So I don't know which one of you would like to go first. If any of you is pressed for time, raise your hand. We'll take you first. Otherwise, we'll just kind of go in order as I see you on the screen. Does anyone have a preference of Mike, Tricia, or Art, or Brad? No? Alrighty then. Let's go with Mike. You're the first one I see. So Mike Slauson from the library. Let me see if I can bring up the libraries. If I can share my screen here. Hold on a second. My laptop is painfully slow tonight for some reason. Did that work? Can everyone see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. How about now?
Nope.
Oh man.
It's saying it's sharing, but it's just a black screen.
Here
we
it
go.
is.
I was gonna say it looks good on my end. Okay.
Slow
Mr. Slauson.
connection.
So would you like me to sort of just go through, just give an overview of the budget?
Yes, please. Anything
All
that's most of it seems like it's pretty standard, cost of living increases or
Yeah. If you scroll, there's I also attached a couple documents to this. It's called Library Budget Breakdown that just goes over a couple things that I think are important to sort of.
Yeah, unfortunately, those didn't come over well.
Oh, okay. Oh,
There
wow.
they,
They're really small.
there they are.
Okay. I don't know how that happened. So what I'll do is I'll go through very briefly what was on that library budget breakdown sheet. So the first thing on there, I don't know how familiar everyone on the financial committee are with the municipal appropriation requirement, the MAR. Every year we have to meet this municipal appropriation requirement in order to keep good standing with the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners and also with the sales network. So they basically take our last 3 years, what the library was appropriated. They average those out and then they add 2.5% to it. And that is the MAR for the current year. Our MAR for this year is for FY23 is 163,893. And once again, that's the three previous years averaged and then plus 2.5%. If we don't meet that, there are several consequences. The most important being we wouldn't be able to be part of the reciprocal borrowing between libraries and the sales network. That's about 4,000 books that we take in for Plympton residents every year that we would go away. We'd also lose access to state aid funding, which is we get about $4,500 a year in state aid funding. And we'd also lose access to state grants. So my total request is just a little bit over the MAR is 163,965 total for the library. And that, as far as library, or what you see on the screen right now, the library support staff with a 3% increase. I also, I added, so what I was saying about the MAR is we have to meet that number. So that the money needs to be broken up somewhere. I determined this year that it was worth our while to give one staff member 3 extra hours a week. Some of that, to put some of that money towards that. I feel like we could put it towards materials or some other things, but I think what's going to be the most valuable for the library is having one of our staff members in a couple extra hours a week. So that's why you see the 22 to 25 hours. I also did take down the by 1 hour a week the circulation assistant and our children's programming.
And that's the same clerk we previously discussed for a reserve fund transfer. Is that correct?
Yeah, and that was the reserve fund transfer was for a specific project that we're doing here at the library. This would be for the year, obviously, but I just feel like that's the best way to spend some of that money is to give this staff member a few extra hours. I think especially based on his performance with this cataloging project, things are really starting to look great here, and I think it's worthwhile for it. So that's the library support staff, and that's with the 3% increase. So we're going up from 41,964 to 44,634. As far as library materials, starting off with the first line item there is that pays for our audiobooks, our books, our newspapers, magazines, DVDs. Now that has to be the MBLC based on the population of each town determines what percentage of your total appropriation needs to be spent on library materials. For us in Plympton, it's 19.5%. That number can also be supplemented. So I can also use state aid money to bump that up if we need to, but that should get us where we need to be with 32,000. The alarm, this pays for the monitoring of our alarm system by Sounder Systems, and as well as a couple times a year testing on the system. Gas pays for our natural gas service from Eversource. The telephone, this has gone up. I added a little bit to this year to add an additional 2 Wi-Fi hotspots to our collection. Wi-Fi hotspots are just, I don't know how familiar everybody is with them, but they're just little boxes that give you internet access wherever you are, and they're really, really popular in town. We currently have 3 of them, and they're always checked out. So I think adding 2 more to our inventory is a good thing, and they'll get a lot of use. Supplies. This pays for the library supplies we use to catalog, maintain, and repair all of our materials, things like book tape and spine labels, book glue, etc. It also includes supplies used by the staff and by the public, so paper and toner cartridges, staples, things like that. I added a little bit extra to it. I added 1,000 this year. And this is going to help us cover the recataloging project that we're currently working on right now. It'll also help us a little bit with our new collection of our library of things that we've started. So that'll help us maintain those throughout the year. The custodial for $28.60. This is our weekly custodial service, cleaning service. This also includes our cardboard and trash pickup weekly. The HVAC maintenance, this pays for our 3 times a year testing from Arnold Refrigeration. And I also wanted to have some money in there just for emergency repairs if necessary. Every year we've had something that needs to be fixed. Last year it was pretty light. It was just a small leak. But the HVAC system here is pretty antiquated, and I feel safe having some money in there if we need to make a repair. The sales networks fees. So this is $10,589. This pays for our membership in the sales network and all the benefits that come along with that. This includes access to the entire sales network of libraries for Plympton residents. It also pays for our access to the sales overdrive collection, which is our e-books and e-audiobooks. So that lets Plympton residents have access to thousands and thousands of books that are in their collection. So we don't have to pay for all of those books. The next thing is the computer support, $28.55. This pays for our tech support from the sales network. They provide technical support for all of the staff computers and public computers on site. It also includes several software applications that we use for things like library newsletters, our online calendars, research tools for patrons. I added $366 to this from last year, and that's in order to cover our web hosting and support for our new website, the library's new website that is currently being developed. And then I added a little bit extra for professional development and travel. There are some classes that I'd really like to see one of our staff members take this year. He's already in school, but I think there are some professional development opportunities that he could do this year that would really help with his job duties here. So I added a little bit to that. I'd also like to hopefully attend the American Library Association conference this year. So a little bit of money towards that. So that's all the materials and our library support staff. And like I said, the total request for this year is $163,965.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation.
Sure.
Any members of the committee have any questions for Mr. Slauson?
No.
No.
Could I just ask you to please try and send those 3 pages again to us,
Yep.
just so we have them for our files?
Yep, I'll send them tonight.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Mine printed out fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, strange, huh?
You may be able to zoom in on it if you control and then the mouse wheel. I think you can zoom in on it.
Mine came out fine too, Nate.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. There we go. All right, never mind.
Well, I'll send them again by themselves so they're not turned landscape like that. So at least it makes it a little easier to read.
Thank you. All right, if there are no more questions for Mr. Slauson, we'll move on to the next department. And let's see, who's, I guess, Tricia, that'll be you, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, great. Awesome. Sorry, I was having a little trouble with the audio earlier.
Let me see if I can find your document. I had it.
Do you want me to resend it to you or did you
No,
find
I've got it. It's taking a second to load here. I've got it.
All right. You're welcome.
There it comes. Dinner's ready.
I'm still seeing the old document.
Tricia, are you still in on both your phone and the laptop?
Yes, now I did not kick off the laptop, but I'm back on phone.
Okay, well, somebody's got us up on both, so that's why we're getting that feedback. Okay, there we go. Tricia, can you speak now still?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, good. Yeah, I just shut you off on your laptops. All right, good. Can everyone see the screen then with the town clerks?
Yes.
All right, great, excellent. All right, Tricia, it's all you.
So for the town clerk salary, we were told to do a 3% COLA. So I added the 3% COLA. For the 2%, I did a 2% for a 10-year step. So I've been in the office since June of 2012. So I was thinking that was my 10-year anniversary. And to be fair, it doesn't seem that there's an automatic step up for anyone for their longevity. So I thought 2% was fair to add to that.
Is that, I was confused by this. Is that something that is, Liz, is that in our personnel bylaws or is it contractually obligated in any way? I mean, I wasn't sure. I don't remember seeing this for anyone else.
A 10-year step is not specifically in the bylaw, but we did allow for everybody to put in for a merit raise. And I think that any merit raises that are put in for are coming in right around 2%. So I think that what she put in for is in line with many other requests.
Okay. All right. I guess I was just confused. All right. So just the fact that she called it a 10-year step that was what was confusing to me, because it sounded like it was something that would be either in a bylaw or would be, like, I know for Pat Dillon, for example, I think there was some sort of a retention bonus in his contract towards the end there.
I guess I don't fall under the guidelines of wage and personnel, and I don't have a contract. So it's sort of like a gray area of what to do with the clerk's salary. So honestly, I was just trying to be fair.
Yep. All right. Fine. Thank you. I just wasn't sure what the explanation was. So thank you for that.
Yep. That was simple.
This one's straightforward.
Yep. That one's straightforward. The support staff, that's actually been really where I've had to flex in this office. Nancy was able during COVID to take care of family members who need care and not able to work the full 20 hours that the office needs for staff support. So before I hired Nancy after Jill left, Megan was my first to hire. And because of her, she came in for an interview. She interviewed well. She's very qualified. She has an excellent background. But she had things that were happening in her personal life that didn't allow for her to accept the position. So I reached out to her to see if she wanted to start in the office the way I started, just by starting, one day a week as a fill-in and filling in and learning the job just by immersion. So she works Wednesdays, the day that Nancy can't come in, and they're job sharing. And I'm thrilled. It was really a struggle during COVID because a lot of the work has to be done in-house. We're only able to get to the state computer for elections and voter registration, things that we do on a daily basis, only in here. We can't access that remotely because of security reasons. And this has been working since, I think, September. Both of them, just with their communication and the way they're processing things in the office. We're actually working on a manual together for if anything happened to all three of us, where to find things, how to do things, kind of like a succession thing. The next person that comes in this office is going to have almost a little book to say where everything is and how to do everything. And the three of us are working on that together. And it's a great project, especially having someone come into the office who doesn't have the experience of knowing where everything is. So she's helping us really get the wording and the details for that manual. So it's been wonderful. I'm thrilled. So that's why there are two different wages, two different line items. Nancy is the first one with the 15 hours a week, and Megan is the 5 hours a week.
Why is there no previous year information on quite a few of these items?
What specifically?
Well, the assistant town clerk, what was she getting last year? It's blank. The columns are blank.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the way I received it from the town administrator. I didn't think I needed to.
Yeah, that's correct. Marilyn, when we sent these out to everybody, the data that we get from the town accountant as far as what was appropriated for the current fiscal year we're in, it's done as a total budget line. So we don't get that granular to specific employees. So it's provided with the 26,719 is what was appropriated for fiscal 22. And then you can see what she's requesting for fiscal 23.
Well, I don't think it's adequate, but that's just myself. I can't compare line items.
Oh, see, I think this is the third year I've prepared the budget, and I thought this was exactly the way I did it 2 years prior, but I'm sorry about that. I did make a conscious effort.
She calls out on here how many hours the person is working, and it's the hourly rate showing.
Yeah, but it doesn't show how many hours they were working before. I find it inadequate, but I'm just making my own.
Okay.
Sure, I can give you that information, Marilyn. And the reason why this office has the 15 and 5 is because we've only been given 20 in prior years. So I'm not asking for any other hours. I'm just breaking the hours that we've had in prior years up between two people.
Okay,
But I think one of the reasons Marilyn is confused, because I am too, you're not increasing the number of hours, but the total request is going up 15%, but yet you're dividing the hours that were allocated last year, and one of the people at 25% of the hours is substantially less money. So it doesn't seem to add up how the total budget could go up 15% if one of the people is making substantially less than the other person.
Well, factoring into having two people in the office, for example, next week or next month, Megan will be attending a class for elections and town meeting at the conference with me. So that is like extra hours for education for Megan, even though she does have a lower rate. But there were extra hours added in for conference time, just for education for two people. And Nancy will be in the office during that conference, so it's just going to be Megan and I. But just the way I figured out what type of educational hours the three of us had, that's a possible reason for the increase.
And weren't there additional hours listed last year? I don't have it in front of me, but I remember seeing additional hours in your budget request last year.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But that's just, I don't recall adding extra hours for education, but I may have increased that conference hours up from this year because of having another person who is new to the clerk's office. And I thought that was important.
Okay, so then the next page is expenses.
Expenses, I don't really feel that those have changed much. Like I said, I really care about having office coverage and keeping this office remained during the hours that the townhouse is open. So if I did add anything, it was for possibly the Plymouth. Oh, yes. For the Massachusetts Town Clerks Association, the Plymouth mileage for gas reimbursement is 3 people instead of 2, because that's an easy conference to be able to take classes even outside of our regular office times. So just little things like that, but I don't think it changed all that much. We did have some of the association membership dues increased because that's what I really pay for them. But other than that, I didn't really do much with the expenses.
Okay.
I don't think that was a dramatic change.
This is the election and registration line.
And then elections, this is another kind of big year for elections. In September and November, we have federal elections because it's an even year. So even though the fiscal year is 23, it will include September and November of 22. And those elections, that's pretty much been the basic amount that we pay for elections. So it increased from 1 to 3. And that's why there's such an increase, because of the even year.
And this breaks down election expenses. The big one is this one, the state primary November election.
It usually has a bigger turnout, so we hand count for our election, so that usually increases the amount of workers and the time it takes to count the ballots if we have a high turnout. And Plympton does have good voter turnout for those elections. So, but yeah, we kind of know what an election is going to cost, except for during COVID, when there were so many mail-in ballots, the postage went through the roof, and that was really unexpected. But I was able to get grant money for thousands of dollars of postage for those elections. And it didn't really impact what was approved of at town meeting for the clerk's budget. So any money that we had that we didn't use during COVID because conferences were canceled went back to the general fund last year.
Great. I think that was the last sheet. Yeah. Are there any questions from the committee for the clerk? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming in. Thank you for the information. And
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and let you know what was going on in the office. I really think there's been a lot of growth and security and a really good team. So I'm really happy with what's going on in the clerk's office.
Great. All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Board of Health would be next. I don't know if, all right, there he is. joining us from Maryland.
Yeah, and I'll apologize up front. I don't know how stable this internet connection is, so if it kind of tapers off, I'll probably disconnect my video. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm traveling, so I'm not at my house today. But thank you for having us. I will.
I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Oh,
I got
Brad Cronin.
Brad Cronin?
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. So in our budget,
hang on.
it was a 3-page. Yep.
I'm sorry, Brad.
PDF that I sent to you.
Yeah, let me just see if I can find it first or share it. I've got it. Let me just get it up here. Hold on a second, please. Bear with me. For some reason, it's not. There we are. Okay. It's probably not sharing yet, right?
Not yet.
It's coming, I promise. There we go. Okay, sorry. Mr. Cronin, the floor is yours.
Not there yet.
I
Oh, really?
still can't. Yeah, I was just going to say I still can't
Okay.
see it, but.
All right. Again, looks, there we go. Now you can.
Got it. All right, I'm probably not gonna go line by line, unless you'd like to hear an explanation of why we want $3 again, on this one, but, I'm just probably gonna hit the changes and the highlights of where things are different from previous years. I'll start on this page, on page 2, administrative assistant. Our wages for both, admin as well as, health agents reflect a 3% raise. In addition to that, the admin assistant entered the office about 9 years ago and entered in the range of wages towards the bottom of the range for that position. We don't have any mechanism for automatic step raises by year or anything like that, so she's stayed in that lower end of the range since then. So after 9 years, this reflects moving to the top of that range for that position.
I mean, that's a 26%
Yeah, in 1 year?
increase.
Correct.
In 1 year?
Well, I mean, I would have loved to have gone back retroactively and done it incrementally over the years to get to 9 years, but here we are. So
But there's no change in her duties or number of hours she's working or anything like that?
Number of hours, no. Duties, certainly as the Board of Health admin person through the last 2 years of the pandemic, she's kind of been stuck with a lot more than normal, but as far as general duties, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. The second line item is, we previously have not asked for any professional services. However, this year, in some enforcement issues of the minimum housing standards, we've already spent close to $1,000 in legal fees. So moving forward, I would anticipate at least some enforcement issues that will need to be followed up with in the legal system. So I wanted to reflect that and add $1,500 into our budget for future enforcement in the housing court system.
And does legal expenses normally come out of your budget? Doesn't it come out of the town's legal budget?
It does come out of the town's legal budget, but so in past years, we have not used much. So given the fact that we have already used $1,000 this year, and like I said, I anticipate probably using some in the beginning. If nothing else, then just to highlight it, that it may be a change you do somewhere else in the budget, that we've spent more than historically we have, and that probably will continue.
Yeah, that's fine. I just think for consistency, we would delete it from your budget and perhaps, as you said, consider it adding it to the legal one. Thank you. We already talked about the health agent COLA. All right. Sorry. Next page.
Sure. So page 3, as far as increases, telephone and fax reflects the changes in our monthly fees with the new phone system and fax line. Our monthly bill has been increased a bit from the past year, so that just reflects that monthly change times 12 over the next fiscal year. The office supply spending to date in this fiscal year, we're about halfway through, has significantly increased. I don't know if that was a function of just the cost of everything increasing or needing additional supplies due to the additional requirements and various issues with all the COVID reporting and things that we've been doing in the health office. But I took our year-to-date spending and just carried it forward to reflect what it would be through the next full fiscal year, which is an increase to $1,350.
Okay.
The line item for VNA, I left it in as a line item for VNA because that's what it historically had been. VNA we had contracted with prior to fiscal year 22 to be our kind of our follow-up and collection service for any mandated disease reporting, communicable disease reporting and surveillance. In the last fiscal year, they were no longer able to provide that service to us. So because of the pandemic and their short staffing, VNA wasn't able to do any of this mandated stuff for us. We have, since they have left us, been trying to utilize fire department and fire department personnel to pick up some of that reporting and surveillance. And we're finding that that is taxing their personnel more than they're able to sustain. So we've added $2,000 back into the budget to find some way of finding somebody, be it a part-time nurse that we can hire hourly, or be it another service like VNA, but somebody to follow up with all communicable disease reporting that we are required to do as the local Board of Health.
Does that reporting require any sort of special training or knowledge? Or, I mean, you said a nurse, does it have to be a medical personnel?
Yes and no. I guess it depends is the clearest answer I could give you. They need to have some level of medical knowledge because there's certain terminology and things they have to do depending on what the issue is and what the disease is and what exactly they're talking to. They have to interact with the person that's contracted the disease to see what's going on medically with them. It's not necessarily something that has to be done by a nurse, and certainly If there's a way that we can find to do it the cheapest for the community that still works with the mandated reporting, we'll do that. And right now, as I said, we're kind of in the infancy with trying to figure out where we're going to go with this, because VNA had no longer offered us that service. And now we're kind of looking around, and I've been in contact with surrounding communities to see what they're doing and who they're using. And so moving forward, we'll probably details to follow on that.
Okay, fair enough.
And then the last item is we have a copier that's being financed in the office now. Our older copier had reached the end of its service life. And that is the reflection of the monthly cost for that.
So this is a new one?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Cronin? Okay, so on the copier, your office has always had its own copier. You don't use the other machines in the building.
That's correct. And because of the disease reporting and some of the stuff we have to do with medical providers and State Department of Health, we need a secure fax that's under our control. It can't just go into a common area. So that copier is, in addition to our copier, also the fax.
And how long is that lease for?
That's a great question, and I don't have an answer for you at this point, but I can get that to you.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you very much for coming to present. Appreciate it. Safe
All right,
travels.
thank you. Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Right.
And lastly, we have the assessors. Is anyone on from the assessors?
Yes, Wendy.
Oh, hi, Wendy.
I don't
Sorry.
know if you can-
Okay, let me see if I can find your document here.
All right.
They were all there. There we go.
Okay. I don't have a computer in front of me, so you'll have to prompt me which slide you have in front of you.
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Bear with me while I bring it up here.
Okay.
Where the hell did it go? Can everyone see the assessor's screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, Wendy, so we are on the outrageous salary request for the assessors of
Oh, yeah. The
$3.
$3 one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
a lot of jealousy on the part of the FinCom.
Yeah, I hear in other towns, a lot of times it's a stipend of like $1,000 or something, and it goes towards their health care coverage. That's what I hear. So I guess there's a reason for it, to have a placeholder for it. So
There must be.
if Plympton becomes a booming metropolis, that number could go up.
We're all moving if that happens.
Yeah.
So we're on
right.
the second page is the assistant assessor salary, which looks like it's
so
a
the assistant,
straight 3% COLA.
it's a straight 3% COLA. It's the 22 hours. I haven't changed the hours. As you know, I do put in extra hours as needed. I don't like to budget them in because, I don't know what each year brings, but I have calculated what I have been over in the last, the range, the last 3 years. It's between 30 and 36 hours. Other than last year where we ran short and had to get a reserve transfer. We usually take it out of the expense budget if I'm over. So we just left my budget at the 22 hours with the 3%.
Okay, all right. So then the next sheet is the support staff.
Okay, so sadly we lost Allison, who, was making, a higher wage. She was at the $22.69 an hour. She was 23 hours. I've budgeted for 22 hours. And I plan to post and get the description going this week, hopefully. So the range for administrative assistant under wage and personnel is the $20.97 an hour to the $27.35 an hour. I would start at the low range and the 22 hours. If there was somebody that came along that had, when I met with wage and personnel last year, we had talked quite a bit about, incentivizing, when you have one class under your belt, add the extra hour, to the wage. So if somebody did come in that had maybe 1 or 2 classes, it would go up. So that would come out of the assessor's expense budget. Either that, or I would have to cut back the hours.
Okay, so this position is currently unfilled. It will be posted at this range. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we are on the expense page.
Yep. The expense page. So I itemized it a little bit more than I have previously, just so there was a little bit more clarity and transparency, because we sometimes, if we do have a shortfall, which we really haven't to date other than my salary range, we will, in the next 2 years, have a shortfall because of the RFP that was contracted to do the recollection for the next few years. We have to do recollection every 10 years. That means visit every home, physically remeasure the outside of every single house in Plympton every 10 years. So it's either on a cyclical inspection plan, and what I had learned is in FY17, what was reported to DOR for certification wasn't completely accurate. So we were mandated to come up with a work plan, a 3-year work plan, and that was the RFP that was put out. It was a 3-year plan. So the next 2 years is recollection. Most of that is in the warrant article. We've already started that, but I don't want to keep, it's a big amount for the next 2 years, so I don't want to raise and appropriate necessarily in a warrant article for that. I'd like to cover some of that in my budget. So, so that's why I won't, bore you with the details, but that's to me is the highlight of the, including what will be a shortfall for the FY23 recollection, because we already have in our warrant article 19,750. That's a good chunk, but it's 28,000 per year. So I'm going to have to put in another warrant article. My other game plan is if we settle with Cisco, which the trial's coming up in February, I had a warrant article for 10,000 for an appraiser because we needed an appraiser. If I settle, we'll transfer that warrant article to recollection, and we won't need to add more money to that. So, and the other costs are the regular costs that we have. The billing system, he hasn't raised his costs very much at all. Our CAM appraisal system, we need that. It's the system that is for real estate and personal property. So now it's combined, which is great. Al, I calculated what his hours were to date. He's put in about 71 hours. he's $15 an hour. We've never increased him. And we've expended $1,071 to date in our budget. So I thought it was fair to just keep to what was actual and just move that forward.
Hasn't he been, he's been budgeted at 1,500, is that right, for the last couple of years?
He was budgeted at 1,500 when it was a warrant article, and then we did away with that. I don't know if it was 2 years ago. It might have been 2 or 3 years ago. We did have him as a warrant article, and then so I don't know if it was Barbara or somebody suggested that why don't we just move him as a vendor and put him in as an assessor's expense. So that's what we've done. We have to date, he's found, let's see, we've got 7 parcels unknown that are on the tax roll now. That it's usually between 10 and 15 parcels that we find the owners through estate research and get that on the tax roll. And he's not able to, during COVID, he's not able to come in all the time. So he did help us quite a bit on the Middleborough Sewell Farm trailhead. He did put in quite a bit of hours there. I mean, I could have reached out to Concom and said, can you help with some of this budget? And we've helped with zoning and other things. It just has come out of my budget. We help each other out. So that's just what it is. And then the rest of the assessor's expenses is just the normal stuff. I really have not been, other than research of, keeping up on, once every 3 years, you have to keep up on your hours to stay certified. So I don't really need any extra classes or hours or anything like that right now. Do you have any questions?
Anyone on the committee?
No?
No.
Okay. All right. Then
All right.
I guess we'll let you go. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate the
All right.
presentation.
All right. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, I think that covers all of the departments that we were scheduled to hear from. As you heard, since our last meeting, Wage and Personnel did meet. We had the joint meeting, if you'll recall, back in December. Wage and Personnel did meet and voted about a week after we had our meeting, and they did decide on a 3%, as you heard all the folks refer to in their budget presentation. So I just want to make sure that was clear up front. Okay, so now let's go back to agenda item number 2, and let me share this. Hopefully. There we go. All right. I'm getting good at this. So this is you'll all recognize our familiar budget sheet. This is the brand spanking new one for fiscal 23. Liz has been going through and entering in the numbers for us. So thank you for that, Liz. I don't know if there's anything in here that you wanted to call our attention to so far, or if it's just kind of probably still a little too early in the process.
I don't know if you want me to go through anything in particular. I could do that. The only thing right now, I'm just looking at it. I think for going through some of these others, maybe at the next meeting, and that way I can share with you their actual budget requests and everything ahead of time.
Sure.
The only thing I wanted to call out now, if you scroll down to like this, or maybe up actually to the selectmen section. Oh, I guess it's down.
Yeah, they're down.
I wanted to see what your thoughts were. The spot I highlighted in yellow, adding a standalone budget line that pertains to procurement expenses. Over the last few years, just as the town has been growing and we've been doing a lot more work on like town buildings and grounds, we have the town properties committee. There's been a need to put multiple projects either out to bid or to send out a request for proposals. And there are advertising costs associated with that. Another example of a cost would be some engineers utilize a bid document like an online platform. There's a cost for that service. That service we're actually going to be using when our townhouse, the first stage of the new roof project, when that goes out to bid. And then beyond those kinds of costs, occasionally printing, if it was a large RFP or something like that, I'm also required to take continuing ed credits, like recertification for my, I'm a Massachusetts certified public purchasing official. I do not get any sort of stipend for that or anything, but the coursework through the Office of the Inspector General, those classes do add up. So I was wondering, I guess, kind of what your thoughts would be if we just called that out as its own standalone line item, because as it stands now, all these projects that we've been doing that go out to bid, either I'm like trying to find ways to pay the bill for the advertising and whatnot. Sometimes we just kind of eat it out of the selectmen's expense line. Other times, if it's like a lot, I have to go back to whatever department it was related to and see if they can absorb the cost. And then in certain cases, like for the townhouse roof project, when that eventually comes to fruition, the online bid document service that our engineer and council want us to use, it's like $1,100. And it wasn't something that was anticipated. Now, granted, I could take that out of that actual article that was funded, but to kind of give you an example, I don't think we would need to fund this at a lot of money. Even if we put like maybe $1,100 in total in there. One of the recertification classes that I need to take is $495. Many of them, depending on the number of credits, are in the $200 range. So I kind of thought that if we've been trying to absorb some of these costs all along, but this is a town-wide thing. It's not exclusive to the selectman's office or to any one particular entity. So I just thought it would make sense going forward. You know, even a number I have written down here, I was doing some math, kind of seeing what I'd suggest funding it at. My thought was maybe $1,095. That would cover 3 of the continuing ed type classes, and would also leave a little extra for postage and advertising and printing. So that was just something I wanted to run by you. Obviously, I will give you something in much more detail on it, but just at a first pass, I hesitate to add an amount like that to my expense budget or to the selectmen's, because number one, I don't think that the optics make a lot of sense. And number two, I honestly don't think that some of those expenses should necessarily be mixed in with selectmen's expenses or mine, because it's for somewhat of an exclusive purpose that's dictated by various Mass General laws as far as what you need to advertise and all of that.
Okay. I'll have to think on that one.
If you guys want to think about it, and in the meantime, like when we go over all the selectmen's lines, I can send you the detail on that as well.
I think my initial reaction is that if like in the case of the townhouse roof project, that, that comes under, building maintenance. If we exceed the building maintenance line for that particular year because we have a special project, then that's what the reserve fund is for. So I hesitate to add another budget line that may or may not be needed annually.
Okay.
And I think if the continuing education is specific to your job, then I don't understand why that wouldn't be added to your expense line.
Okay, if people are okay with that, it's somewhat new because I got the certification, well, I got the announcement for it back in March of 21. So we're just coming up on the time where I have to kind of start planning ahead for.
I mean, I recognize.
I wasn't in there before.
I recognize that you're sensitive to the perception of your job. I completely understand that. I have no problem explaining on the floor of town meeting why the money is being appropriated.
Okay, all right, then maybe we should scratch that idea for now.
Okay, that's just my initial reaction. I'm perfectly willing to discuss it further. We can put it on the agenda for next month if that's appropriate. And certainly the rest of the committee can weigh in. That's just me off the top of my head, my first gut reaction.
No, if that's the general feeling, when I provide all of the selectmen's budgets, I'll add it to my expenses and I'll call out which specific amounts they are so that you can see, like I would any other time for anything.
Okay.
And we can go from there.
Great. Is there anything else that's super pressing here? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Great. Yeah, when we get a chance to look at some of these, I'm sure we'll have more questions next meeting for you. Lisa, the accountant, I'm sorry, I should be more formal. The town accountant had circulated a revenue projection sheet, I think she sent it to all of us. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at that? And do we have any questions for her? And I don't know if you would like to comment on that or not.
Briefly, you might notice the bottom line is a little bit lower than it was last year. And I'm seeing all the budgets are going up from last year. I know that's a concern. You do have to notice that there's like a $250,000 decrease in free cash this year. We could end up having a chance where we're going for more free cash once our audit's done, but we can't rely on that. Hopefully next year that'll make a rebound again. Local estimated receipts, I think I'm being very conservative on at the top because I'm sort of estimating the same thing that I've estimated with the state for this year. But we did have a big increase in the tax, not the rate, but the valuation. So taxes have gone up. So that number could end up going up a little bit. Again, the top is pretty much, it's just last year's numbers. It's numbers, nothing really. The new growth could change. Wendy felt comfortable with that for right now. And that's about it, unless you have any questions about anything.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it looked pretty straightforward, like you said, kind of what we've been looking at previously. So I didn't think there was anything. Yeah, and as you said, the challenge will be revenues going down, but expenses are going up, as it is every year.
Right.
So.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Just so you know, too, I am working on a new cleanup type project to get a better feel of capital and general stabilization. And there's some questions and concerns that Christine and I are going back to 2014 to relook at capital and general stabilization to make sure we've got the right numbers in there.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Because I know there's always been, Yeah, I just think it'd be helpful if we had some numbers that we felt comfortable with.
Right. And the other thing I noticed for your, the year-to-date expenditures, I'm going to talk to Danny tomorrow at CDS and see that report like I send you with your budget. I'm going to see if there's a way to print that for all the departments on one sheet so that I can then send that to you so you can see them all. I could photocopy what I have, but that report's kind of nicer than what I have.
Yeah, exactly. I don't, it's something we've asked for a couple of years now. We kind of thought it would be helpful to us on kind of a monthly basis, because I know monthly you send out a recap to each one of the department chairs, and they're hopefully looking at it and signing off on it and sending it back to you. So we just thought it would be helpful to give us a snapshot kind of
the whole town.
Yeah, I mean, now we're 6 months through the year, so theoretically everybody should be roughly halfway through their expenses.
Sure.
So if somebody's way out of whack, we kind of want to maybe ask some questions on it. So
understand. Like I said, I'm gonna definitely call Danny tomorrow and try and find out if there's a good way to get you that information that's not overwhelming for you or me.
That'd be great. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Problem.
Oh, yeah. Hang on a second. I got to admit, Ethan's joining us. Well, to let him know he missed. Good evening, Ethan. If you, Wendy already made her presentation, so I don't know if you have anything to add, but otherwise, I think we're comfortable with what she presented to us.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure. I just saw it at 7 o'clock, and I thought, oh my God, I'm so late.
No, she just finished a little while ago. She did a nice job presenting. I really don't think there was anything out of the ordinary that we had questions about. So.
Okay, she probably would have done a better job than I did since she prepared that budget. Okay, thanks. But I just wanted to check in as soon as I could just to make sure that everything was good.
No, I think we're all set. Thank you for joining.
Okay. Welcome. Goodbye.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Let's see. We also, just for informational purposes, we had a document that came in outlining the legal expenses. Again, I believe everybody received a copy of that. Liz, I don't know if you have any comments on this. Nothing looks, super crazy on here. I don't know if it's. I mean, I appreciate the fact that we're being included on these, but.
Yeah, nothing really out of the ordinary. Kind of typical ongoing. There are a few matters that have been somewhat extended, but I do think we'll be getting closure on some of those items soon. So.
All right, good.
Nate, you would like to continue to be copied on those emails?
Yeah, I think it's helpful. Yeah, I think it is. Sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Seen any?
I'm sorry?
Did you send it out?
I thought I did. I might not have.
Committee. Yeah.
I can circulate it.
Okay.
I can circulate it. Yeah. I thought I did. I apologize if I didn't. Okay. I'll circulate it out. And then last on the agenda, we have, I think it's last on the agenda. Well, no, there's one more. We have a request for reserve fund transfer from the fire department that I believe was circulated. I will share that, however.
It was. I have it.
I have it.
Okay. All right. Well, so, Chief isn't here at the moment. So Liz, I don't know if you are comfortable speaking to this or if we should, invite him for, I assume this work has already been completed.
It's in process. Part of it has been completed. And then there's another, let me just see which one. So I believe this is the one that's, they've already begun doing the work. And then the other one, I want to say that one, the $8,000 somewhat dollar one, that one is pending, they're about to start doing the work. So this one was given just as an estimate.
This is the 8,000 one.
Correct. Correct. And I think what the chief's concerns were in that equipment repair budget line that you have the information for, that was initially budgeted at $20,000. And based on what's left in there, just the $5,000 plus invoice alone will pretty much wipe out the remainder of that. And that's for all of their equipment repair, for the remainder of the fiscal year. Also, to the repairs that are being done, they are necessary to the functioning of the vehicle. It's not even like a maintenance type item that you could say, oh, do we really need to do this right now? It's issues that have rendered the particular vehicles inoperable. So I think when he comes in to talk about his budget, when we set up for that and I send you all the info, I think he's going to likely be making a proposal that perhaps we get an article on the books or a budget line or something that's dedicated for like the maintenance and everything of the vehicles. And maybe he could decrease some of his other budget lines accordingly. But right now, and some of the stuff too, unfortunately, we're still kind of seeing the after effects from years and years of not following a proper maintenance schedule for some of these large vehicles.
Well, this is just engine 2, correct?
I believe it's engine 2. Let me find.
That's what it's labeled as engine 2.
Engine 2, because there was an article at the last town meeting for 108,000 for, I think it was engine 1.
Right.
Yeah, that was the refurbishment of that and converting that over. That article, we put that project out to bid, and the cost came in way too high.
Oh.
Like almost $100,000 higher. So we're not moving forward with that project at this time. So another option would be, although it doesn't solve the problem, especially of the $8,000 invoice, but we need to figure out what we're doing with that other engine.
Yeah.
Looking for more to get the project done, or would it make sense to reallocate those funds at special town meeting? Like they're in an article, so they're just going to sit there unless we repurpose them, or we could even send them back to the initial funding source if we needed to, if they came from capital, for example.
Those funds did actually come from capital.
Okay, so if
they
it
have to go
came
back to
from capital, if we tried to repurpose them at special town meeting, we would need to go for another capital purpose or return to the capital fund. I don't know honestly what his plan is for that, but the bids that we got in, it was a complete non-starter. It wasn't even the type of thing that was, oh, maybe we could come back and ask for a little bit more. I just think with the cost of everything, with the inflation being so high, and some of these places are, they're busy with other projects and everything. It was nowhere near the 108,000 that we requested. So, but no, if you want more specific information on this and the repairs, I know that the chief would be more than willing to discuss it. I don't know, or even if you wanted to do maybe one of them and the other one to kind of pay out of maybe other expense lines, if that's possible, and then we can kind of figure it out closer to the end of the fiscal year. The only downside I see in terms of the reserve fund transfer at this point in time, that we still have kind of a ways to go in this fiscal year. So that was my only concern. But the chief is doing a great job kind of trying to keep everything together over there and sort of plugging all the holes. So this was a huge setback, obviously, to get, have these kind of costs come about.
Well, I assume he would be expecting that some of this $20,000 would be used for the purpose for which it was voted.
Yes, he's aware of that, but he didn't expect to get $13,000 invoices for one engine.
So the request for reserve fund transfers is for the amount of $13,860.46, which I assume is the total of these two invoices that I just showed you. So Marilyn, that's 13,860.46.
Wait a minute. It's not what I've got on my paper here. It's 13. Say it again, please.
13,860.46.
Okay.
So they have still in this line item, this line budget, they have approximately $6,700. So the true shortfall, if you will, is about 7,000. So, but that would wipe out their budget for the remainder of the year. I don't know what the committee's thought is on this.
Any idea what he expects that he might need?
Yeah, see, I don't, and that's where I'm sure he can't go 6 months without performing maintenance on his equipment. I hesitate to. I'm just not sure what to do. I think.
Wondered if you could almost portion it out and maybe do a smaller transfer now to get him through so that he can get some of this paid. And then I can work with him and see if there are any other potential funding sources, and then send him back to you if he needs to later on. I do think a $13,000 transfer with this much time left in the fiscal year is a bit concerning. Just because we don't know what else might come down the pipeline. There are other departments other than just fire.
Could you tell me what's in the reserve fund right now?
Yeah, I have that number.
Okay.
Looking at it.
We've had a lot of unanticipated things. Well, Lisa's looking that up. Just to give you a quick overview, the old townhouse, there was a mold situation that had to be remediated. We're going to be into that project for about $10,000, and that doesn't include restoring anything and kind of putting the pieces back together. We had the tiles. We needed to get the tiles sampled under the carpeting. Turned out that had asbestos material in the tiles. So now that needs to be a professional abatement. So those are some of the other challenges. So far, I've been able to kind of make everything work. But that's my only thought. I totally get why the chief is making the request like he is now, but I do think 13,000, really closer to 14,000, is a lot to take out of our reserve fund with a significant amount of time left in the fiscal year. So maybe if you did a partial transfer and then we revisit it.
And the reserve fund was originally funded at $118,000. We are now at $108,128. So it's about $108,000 in that account.
Thank you.
So in the interest of keeping things running in the fire department, but also, being mindful of the discussion that Liz just presented, I'm going to suggest that perhaps we fund one of the two invoices to the amount of $8,191.94. Excuse me, $81.21.94.
And I'll make that a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
No, just wait a second. I'm writing. I'm not used to being the secretary business.
Do you need the number back again? $81.21.94.
I've got the number. So it was Steve.
Steve and Catherine seconded.
Okay.
You can watch the video later and
No, I'm not watching the video.
relive all of this in living color.
No, no.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table to approve a reserve fund transfer for line number 515 for fire. I guess it's maintenance. Do a roll call vote. Marilyn Brown,
Aye.
Steve Lewis,
Aye.
Catherine Shepard,
Aye.
Daniel Sides, aye. Motion carries. Lisa, I'll sign this and get this to you.
Perfect, thank you.
All righty. The only other thing I had on the agenda was there was an email that we received that I was copied on from John Wilhelmsen about pending repairs at the Dennett. And Liz, I don't know if you have any more information on that. I neglected to invite John to kind of explain things. It's just more of an FYI for the committee, just to kind of be prepared down the road.
I think, so they're actually in the process of working on a whole spreadsheet. I've been working with town properties, and we're going to kind of outline each of the buildings and what's going on there. So I think I'd wait for that.
Okay, good.
Getting too into the weeds on it.
Perfect. Good answer. Are there any other items that we should be discussing that were not presented prior to the meeting? If not, I'll entertain a motion from Steve to adjourn. Catherine seconds. Roll call vote. Marilyn Brown,
Aye.
Steve Lewis,
Aye.
Catherine Shepard,
Aye.
Nathaniel Sides, aye. We are adjourned 7:26 p.m. Thank you all very much.